So good evening, afternoon, morning, everyone, wherever you are in the world. My name is Peter Dove, author of Master Dressage. Do click on the chat icon at the top of the screen and feel free to ask any questions using that, and perhaps just give me a shout if you can actually hear me talking so that I know it's all working as it should. If you can't hear anything, then you'll need to click on the phone icon at the top of the screen. Oh, great. People can hear me. That's wonderful. Hello. So, excellent. So we'll just go over what I'm going to cover in this introductory lecture. This lecture is more of an introduction. It's letting you know what we've got coming up in the future, and it's a way to answer any questions that you have about the book and training or anything to do with horses, in fact. So it's a very basic slideshow this time. I'll get a lot more pictures in next time, and you'll be quite excited when I tell you who we've got coming up. So next sort of slide, I'm going to talk about what's coming up. In other words, what projects are going on, what guest speakers I've got coming on to the Master Dressage webinars to talk about different aspects of riding. It's great to know the riding, but you need to know groundwork, you need to know about farriery, you need to know about nutrition and physiotherapy and so on. I think one of the things that I said about when I wrote my book is that riders need to know more these days. They need to be a lot more responsible about the welfare of their horse. And if you're competing at dressage or any of the disciplines, there's a huge responsibility on you to know quite a bit. It's not an easy sport, and it always amuses me when people say, well, you just sit up there. It's like, well, there's an awful lot more to it than that. I'm going to briefly go over the system. Some of the people on the webinar have only just recently bought the book, haven't received it yet, but are coming onto the webinar as well. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. So thanks very much for buying Master Dressage. It really means a lot to me. We've now sold over 1,300 copies of Master Dressage. And to put that into perspective, a equine bestseller over the lifetime of the book sells about 10,000 copies. So I think we're well on the way to a bestseller. I wrote Master Dressage mainly because I've been teaching now for the almost 25 years or so. Actually, probably for 1 year and Mary, which is about 25 years. And during all that time, I did teaching, I do a lot of dressage judging, and I see the same mistakes happen again and again and again in the dressage arena. More than that, I wanted to put together a system that people could use to actually learn and master dressage. You won't get very far by going to have weekly lessons. You've got to have some other plan, and that's really what I hope for Master Dressage, that I give to someone the plan for how to get better at dressage, no matter what your starting point, in fact. I just want to quickly show you how to use this area. I know a lot of people have been having trouble with that, and I'm going to try and make that a little bit better. So you can access the members area after clicking the login, and you log in with your login details. By the way, if you turn to page 189, that's where the details are, but since you're here, I assume you've already done that. To get to the membership area, go to the home page. So this is the Master Dressage home page. You click on Master Dressage Membership, and hopefully my internet is going to be fast enough. By the way, I am also recording this as well, so this will go into the members area too. So the audio section is really the plan to put the book into audio and make it available for you. That's just something that you get for free when you buy the book. And hopefully if you really like the book, you could recommend it to other people as well. I don't think there anywhere you can spend £15 and get access to all the information that you're getting here. The demo videos, those are already up, so you can just click on those videos and watch the 2-hour video that was there. I'm going to redo the demo videos. I'm going to do another demo and have cameras inside the arena and get some cameras on the riders. I really didn't have the experience last time of where to place the cameras, and you know, I thought the camera that I had would get a big enough view, but I watched back, I realized I stepped too far forward to talk to the audience members who are in the gate looking down, and unfortunately I'm not got quite a bit of time, and some of the horses that are doing the demonstrations were too close to the gallery as well. And I just noted somebody said sound has deteriorated. This may be an internet issue, so I am actually recording the audio as well, just in case that happens. So yeah, the demo videos, they'll have cameras inside, and we'll get that all done again. Master Dressage Addendum, I'm trying to write some more extended pieces from sections in the book, so I'm just finishing off the one on patience, where I talk about having patience with the horse, but also having patience with yourself and the different areas that you need to be patient in. The members forums, I think this is going to be really useful. If you click on the member forums, you can actually go in, you can ask me questions, you can post videos, you can post pictures, ask me for any information. By the way, I make it really clear in those forums that constructive criticism only. You know, I won't sort of tolerate people being rude to each other or anything like that. So get in there, ask questions. I think you know by now from how I work on Facebook that I respond pretty quickly to people's questions. I mean, I am extremely busy, but I do spend a lot of time in front of the computer, so I'm quite happy to answer people's questions there. I'll be putting up some more training videos. I think this week I should start getting those training videos up, and a lot of those will be my daughter doing some movements from tests. We'll talk about impulsion, we'll talk about tempo control, straightness, balance. So there'll be quite a few training videos there. And the weekly webinars, you've already been there, but what will happen is that section will grow. So not only will you get the link to the next webinar that's coming up, but you'll also be able to have a look and listen to the previous webinars too. So this is all being recorded. So one question I'd like to ask, and you know, you can answer it in the chat if you like, but it's mainly a rhetorical question. What did you think of the book? And I'm quite happy for people who write to me about the book and let me know their thoughts. One of the reasons I ask, what did you think of the book? If you have a look on amazon.co.uk, there are some amazing 5-star reviews on there. I was really, really pleased with that. You know, I'm quite an emotive person, so you know, when I see those reviews on there, it always makes you go, no. It's a very warm, fuzzy feeling. But if you look on Amazon.com, I can only see one review on there. So if you're from the USA or even from the UK, please go on to Amazon. Let everyone know what you thought of the book and what you got from it. One of the other things that I'm going to put together is an instructor's guide to dressage. So Haley here can't hear. Okay, so I'm going to be putting together an instructor's guide to master dressage. This will be a guide on how best to go about teaching some of the methods in there. I think from the way I write in the book, you know, you should easily be able to translate this into teaching people. I know a lot of people have contacted me and said that they already are doing this, which is great to hear. But I think it would be good to have a guide put together for that. One of the things you can do after reading the book, have a look in the resources section. It's been great to hear that a couple of you have contacted Mary Warnless and have booked on her courses. They're really great. You can have a look at any of her books. They're a really good thing to look into. But I think the very first thing you can do is to have a really good review of where you are with your riding, where you are with your tests, and really have a look at that section on review. Excuse me while I get a drink. So what's coming up in Master Dressage? Well, the first thing we have is next Sunday, we're going to have the second webinar. And Mary Wanless is going to join me on that webinar, and she's going to talk a little bit about the rider biomechanics section of the book, and just provide a little bit more information on the section that was there, give you a little bit more information on how to get the horse to work in an outline, how to lift it up through the back, and also just to answer any questions that you have on that. Today I spent a whole day filming with Mary and Ali Wakelin, covering groundwork. So, I do talk about the Andrew McLean method of groundwork in the book, and this whole day of filming was actually about those methods, going into a lot more detail about it. So I think I've got Ali coming on a webinar as well to talk about groundwork, how you can use groundwork to help improve your riding. I think a lot of traditional groundwork doesn't really answer the question, what happens when you get back on top of your horse? It helps while you're on the ground. It helps acclimatize the horse to, the bit and steering and so on, but it doesn't really often translate well once you sit on board the horse. So the Andrew McLean work, that really does help the rider by translating what's on the ground to what happens when you sit on the horse. One of the things that the work really does is teaches the horse to stop through a very light contact on the rein, and it teaches the horse not to follow the rider as well on the ground. Often we lead a horse and we stop and the horse stops, and we want the horse to march on, so we march on and the horse follows us. Really what you want to happen is that you can lead the horse, a small bit of pressure on the reins, the horse will stop, and you could continue walking on and the horse would remain parked. And the same thing, whereas if you want the horse to walk on, the horse should walk on from your command without you having to walk on yourself. Because obviously when you get back on top of the horse, there's nothing for the horse to follow. There should be another there should be a webinar on confidence by the same author, Joe Cooper, who did a section for me on that. The same with physiotherapy as well. We're going to do webinars which review various tests that people have submitted, and I'm going to be able to get in a couple of British Dressage and FEI judges to talk about the judge's point of view, what they're looking for in tests, and to answer any of your questions that you have on dressage judging and dressage tests. The other thing I'm working on is a series of new DVDs and books. These DVD and books are kind of pairs, so the first DVD and book will go take a horse from just backed to intro level, so we're talking walk and trot tests. The next DVD and book set will be to prelim level, so we're talking about walk, trot and canter, and the following DVD set will be about sort of novice elementary, so we'll be talking a lot more about lateral work. We'll be talking about medium paces and more difficult movements, and actually I've got 2 young horses that these DVDs will follow as well, so you'll actually get to see the progression of the same horses on those DVDs. So the system was put together for a very specific reason, because I really think it's the best way to go ahead and master dressage. I hope nobody picked up the book and saw the title Master Dressage and thought, oh, I'll read this book and I'll be a master at dressage. It really is a book about how to master dressage. So the reason I chose the steps, and I'm going to explain them to you here. For instance, let's take accuracy. I think to focus firstly on accuracy is because it's the easiest thing that will make a difference to you. Accuracy breeds focus. You know, once you start thinking about being accurate, you start to develop a much better focus. Focus really is the be-all and end-all of learning to ride well. Being able to focus with enough focus and knowing what to focus on are the real big keys of riding well. So, and in fact, I've had people message me and say that they went out and rode and had a so much better ride simply because they were actually focusing on their accuracy and focusing on their circles. Instead of trying a little bit of this and a little bit of that, they had something clear to focus on, and because of it, it made such a big difference. Accuracy helps develop better practice. You know, it gives you something to practice, to focus on, and, you know, at least it gives you an idea of what you should be practicing. The big key really, I think, is accuracy makes life much easier for the horse. I have seen so many tests where the lack of accuracy makes the job so much more difficult for the horse. So getting into the habit of being accurate, you'll find you have a much easier time riding your horse. And obviously, part of the subtitle of the book is Accuracy Gets Higher Marks. I think fluidity is kind of like a strategic way of thinking. You know, it develops thinking ahead. It makes you think about how to prepare for a movement. It, you know, fluidity is thinking about the space in between movements and transitions. So let's take walk to trot, for instance. You know, I think people think walk to trot is this instant transition, and often we're told, you know, and make sure the horse is off the leg and trots on. And, you know, there is a period of time in which a transition happens. And if you were to bend your focus to that transition and, you know, keep the horse lifted up through the back and reached into the reins as you applied your aids to go forwards up into trot, you know, that to me is fluidity. You know, the number of times I've judged a test and, you know, you give it an 8 for transition, right, smooth transition. And that's fluidity. You know, the smooth change of bend is fluidity. The trotting down the long side and moving off onto a circle seamlessly is fluidity by, you know, preparing the bend before you make the turn. So, you know, I think fluidity makes up for a lot of marks in the test, and as I've written down, fluidity gets higher marks. Standing is really the big part of dressage. You really need to understand the purpose for all of the movements that are in the test. You know, what is it that the judge is looking for when they look at a particular movement? I think in the book I've kind of, you know, listed some movements and listed all the things that could go wrong. If you were to invert them, you'd see what it is that the judge is looking for. So, you know, loss of balance, the horse should look balanced. To give you a better idea of this, I included the scales of training, and the scales of training do give you a really good idea of what the judge is looking for. You know, rhythm is the number one thing. The number of times I see trainers teaching their pupils forward, 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 and you've got horses which are rushing, unbalanced, you know, stressed out. And riders that are very, very busy because, you know, they're just busy rushing their horses around. Rhythm is the first thing, and that is the first thing you should develop. You know, you cannot have impulsion without rhythm. You cannot have impulsion without tempo control, and so on. And actually, I think I did a good job of getting that across in the book. One of the other things that happens as you develop, sometimes you learn these things through having going through them yourself, but, you know, understanding typical errors and pitfalls. you know, some of this comes through by making the errors yourself, and some of it comes through from seeing other people make those errors too. But, you know, a lot of it will come from reading, learning, watching videos on the internet. So, you know, a lot of studies required there. And, you know, understanding the tests and what the judges are looking for to get the higher marks. This is going to be really great for when I get one of the an FEI judge in to do some commentary. The person that I've got in mind is an international judge, so that should be really great. Practice, you know, practice is all about how well you focus. You know, when I ride in walk down the long side, I'm aware of every footstep. You know, that I don't realize the horse has lost its straightness after 3 steps or 4 steps. You know, I can feel the horse becoming unstraight almost immediately. And, you know, I think it comes from that, well, you know, riding should be easy, and we're just trotting. And really, you need to be able to focus from moment to moment to moment, every moment you ride. And if you don't, you'll kind of miss a whole heap of things that are going on underneath you. And if you don't have that level of focus, by the time it's gone wrong, it's way too late. So sometimes when you're riding, you should be, if things go wrong, you should be asking yourself, at what point do I notice going wrong? So one of the things Mary often teaches is, you know, if you've got a horse that hollows, perhaps you should be asking yourself, what happens when it hollows? When does it hollow? How early can I feel that hollowing start to happen? What do you notice when the horse hollows? Do you notice the head going up? Do you notice some tension appear in the horse? Do you notice the back start to hollow underneath you? Do you notice the tempo perhaps start to speed up? So, you know, riding well is very much about noticing. And I think I wrote a little section on, you know, noticing what was happening while I was riding a particularly speedy horse. Practice should be perfect or not. Meaning I think that all practice should be deliberate. You know, you should be choosing to practice something and know what it is you're practicing, know what the result is, and how to measure your success whilst you're practicing that. And you should also be aware of what you're choosing not to practice too. What was really interesting about the day's filming today was that it's really clear that whatever you are doing with your horse, you're always training something, whether you mean to or not. An example of this is how people tend to use their leg. Most people are using their leg on autopilot, and whether they believe it or not, they're busy training their horse that their leg means nothing. And, you know, even if you're a rider that's not consciously kicking with your leg, if your leg is moving around or other parts of your body are moving around without you making it happen, you're training something in the horse. And actually, and sometimes the horse is training you too. Sometimes the horse goes really slowly and you use your leg and he hardly responds and you continue using your leg. And in fact, he's trained you to use your leg and accept that nothing is going to happen. So we're meant to be the smarter ones. So yeah, be very careful that sometimes the horse trains us to do things too. And well, practicing well gets higher marks. Review is the final element, and you know, I think this is the biggest missing element for a lot of people. Most people don't review anywhere near enough, and you know, really good review will reveal mistakes, will reveal places that you could improve on. You know, and you can get review from lots of different places, from coaches, from judges, from books, from your test sheets, from your friends, from looking in the mirror. You know, I did that. They're all listed out in the book, but I think, in fact, actually, I think that's one of the things I recommended at the end of the book is you need to go and do a serious review of how you're doing in your tests with your horse. For instance, let's say you're struggling with getting your horse to work in an outline. And, you know, some people really do struggle with this, really do fight with this with their horse. And it's at that point where things become a struggle that review is really, really important, and you should be seeking advice from friends, maybe getting a video taken, having a look on the internet, asking questions. Do ask in the forum, for instance. And a good review will really show you where to pick up more marks in your test. And you know, I can't recommend it enough. So that's going to be it on my talking away on the introduction. Next week's going to be a lot fuller, and Mary does talk very well, so I think you'll enjoy it. So does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? And if you'd like to ask a question, just click on the icon at the top of the screen, and that will bring up a little chat window, and you can just simply ask me a question in the chat window. Now, normally when I do these webinars, I actually have, I'm doing them usually with Mary, because Mary does quite a lot of webinars. So Mary does the talking, and I do the routing through the questions that people have, and ask those questions, and she answers them. So it's quite good. So I'm sort of having to try and do two jobs at once here. Oh, okay. So here's a question. When are you expecting to release the first DVD? I have a 4-year-old who's just been backed, and it sounds just like what I need. I'm thinking it will be, I think it will be June by the time I get that DVD out. I'm actually running a Kickstarter campaign at the moment to try and raise some funds to be able to do the DVD, because really it requires rather a lot of time, equipment, and focus. So I'm working on getting some funding for that, but the plan is really for June. And you know, I've got a horse that's just been backed, and from the book as well, you'll have seen Tinker. Sorry, excuse me. You'll have seen Tinker in the book, and you know, Tinker is an intro level horse, and she's just actually starting to work on canter. It's quite amusing, actually. Millie did a test on Tinker this weekend, which is her first prelim, and to work in it. And, you know, she was getting 7s, some really nice marks for trot work, and she got to the canter, and it was dreadful. She just scraped like 60%, but the mare decided to go off on the wrong leg several times on one rein and was getting, you know, 2.5, 3. So she was pretty pleased to scrape 60%. But yeah, she'll be one of the horses, so that'll be quite sort of good to be starting with that kind of level where, you know, the horse is just getting into the canter work. You know, and we've hit a couple of issues with her striking off on the correct lead. You know, I ride the mare very infrequently, and I usually need to walk and trot because I'm just a bit too heavy for her. And, you know, I'm currently on a major slimming, fitting campaign so that I can get down to a sort of weight where, you know, I'll be able to sort of help Millie out a lot more. And Millie's so slim, and Tinker's so much of a sumo wrestler in terms of how much she wants to push her weight onto her forehand, that Millie is too slim to kind of, you know, not strong enough to get that working. And so then we've got another one that really is just backed. And she's got some interesting difficulties with rhythm in the walk that I haven't seen before, and we think it's just sort of tension. So it'll be interesting to film that, the solution to that, and there is a solution to that. You know, being able to get the horse to walk smoothly and to reach into the rein and so on. So that'll be really good to show on the DVD. But yeah, it'll be June. Anyone who backs the Kickstarter campaign, what I'm going to be, and I'll let you all know about this sort of later on, anyone who backs that campaign will actually get access to a members area where they can see sections of the DVD as it's progressing. So you'll actually be able to get the learning earlier than when the DVD is actually going to be out. So another question is, can you tell me when we're going to cover learning tests? That's an interesting question, actually. There's so much really great stuff to cover. You know, we've got the car mechanics, the groundwork, confidence, and so on. And, you know, I want to get as much as I can out to people in the 4 free webinars that you get when you buy the book. So yeah, it's a tricky question. What I might do instead is actually do a separate video on this and put that in the members area. I mean, it would be great to do a whole webinar on it, but I feel that, you know, I think groundwork for a lot of people is going to be really, really interesting, and the same with rider biomechanics. So yeah, maybe who asked that? Viewer 7. So yes, I think I will do a separate video on that very soon, probably next week, and put that out in the members area as one of the training videos. And then, you know, you don't have to come and sit through a webinar, but you can actually pick up the video when you're ready and have a look at it. But yeah, you know, I've got a couple of really good methods for learning multiple tests that will you know, get you through competitions, and I can't guarantee that they'll stick in your head much past the competition, but perhaps that's a good thing. I have a master level 3 dressage horse. I struggle to make him go forward off my leg unless I wear spurs. Okay, so, you know, firstly I'll say without seeing the horse being ridden, I wouldn't be able to say for sure what the issue is. But one of the things that you can do is the Andrew McLean work, the groundwork, to get the horse to go from a light tap with the stick and to get it used to marching forwards, and that translates well once you get back on the horse. And I saw that over and over again today, actually, on really lazy horses. The groundwork was done, the rider got back on top. It made a huge difference to the responsiveness of the horse. The other thing may be how you go about using your leg. Actually, I mean, maybe you'll be able to answer that question, but how do you use your leg? When you use your leg, do you give a tap with your leg? Do you squeeze inwards with your leg? Is it a prolonged squeeze? Is it a short squeeze? You know, what are the mechanics of how you're using your leg? You know, how long are you using that aid for instance? So the way that I look at things about using the leg is the leg should be a very short, sharp aid. And, well, perhaps sharp is the wrong word, but the leg aid can go from being almost invisible to being a slap or a kick with the leg. I don't think squeezing is the right way to go about it, because if you squeeze inwards, there's no release. You know, it's almost like you're saying to the horse, I want you to go forwards, but, you know, I'm not letting you go ahead and do it. It's like, you know, giving somebody an errand, but keep calling them back all the time to add something to it. You know, you want an aid which is short, clear, and there should be a release to the aid, and the horse goes forward. So you might ask, if your aid's going to be that sort of short, then how do you do a very quiet aid? And to me, that is, your calf makes a contraction and creates a short, firm pressure in the sides of the horse, and then, you know, it moves forwards. But the key is it's short. It's not a squeeze. You're not trying to squeeze the innards out of the horse. So firstly, whenever I use my leg, I expect a result. Okay, so and meaning I am responsible enough that I choose to use my leg, and I only use my leg when I choose to use it, and I only use it when I want something to happen. So you use your leg. If something doesn't happen, there has to be a consequence to the horse not moving off from your leg. Now, as a rider, that's kind of like down to you as to what the consequence is for your particular horse. Some horses are so sensitive that, you know, you just need to give them a little touch with the stick. Some horses will require a bigger tap. Some riders will wear spurs and the consequence will be the spur, but there has to be a consequence. And not only does there have to be a consequence, but as a rider you have to be responsible enough to go forwards with the horse when you give the consequence, and that, you know, you're not falling behind the movement, you're not taking a stronger hold on the reins, and that you allow the horse to move on. Then you have to be responsible enough then to stop using your leg. You know, the horse has gone forwards, and your job is to be still. I think in the book I put in that whole trick question, which goes, who's responsible for keeping the horse going? And, you know, the answer to that is the horse is responsible for keeping himself going. And, you know, I guess that's where all the instructors are all going, forward, forward, forward. You know, the horse must be forward. And, you know, that's kind of true. That's like, you know, when you put your leg on, the horse should kind of keep going forwards. You shouldn't have to keep nagging him to make that happen. So it's being really strict with yourself and being really strict with the response that you want from the horse, and making sure that you get it. And if it means being tough, then it's better to be tough the first few times than constantly nagging with the leg and hoping to get the horse going. You can look at other things. You know, the horse may be lacking certain vitamins or minerals, or be stiff, or, you know, need its back looking at, any of those things. I guess that's why I say I can't really tell until I've seen the horse. Suffice to say, I've never had a problem teaching my horses to be forward. You know, and I've kind of ridden a lot of lazy horses and a lot of speedy horses. And, you know, speedy horses actually, they aren't going forward. You know, as far as I'm concerned, they're adrenaline pumped, head up in the air and off on a different planet. With those horses, you usually have to sort of, you know, slow them down and get them to start paying attention to themselves. So I hope that helps viewer 27. I guess it all depends on how you're using your leg. You know, spurs are fine. I've never had any problems wearing spurs, or with people wearing spurs. You know, it's required at a certain level. So, but just be very, very specific what response you want from the horse. And when we get to the webinar on groundwork, I think you'll find that will be really interesting. And, you know, you just get a horse to respond to you on the ground in a way that you'll also be able to get him to respond to you whilst you're on top, which, you know, I guess is the real point of doing the groundwork in the first place. Does that answer your question at all? Okay, so we've got any suggestions on how to get my mare to walk on a free walk on a free rein when it's a competition, as at home she puts her nose to the floor, sensitive movement, 19 years, going on 4 years. Okay, you know, that's quite an interesting question. So what I guess is happening, viewer 15, is that when you get to the competition, there's a problem with attention, and you know, she's busy looking at stuff when you give the rein. So one of the things that I work on is the progression from home to competition. And, you know, I'm probably way more cautious than anybody else, and I take really, really baby steps with this kind of thing. So one, I'm in my indoor arena. Can I, in my indoor arena, maintain the horse's attention all of the time, keep the horse relaxed all of the time, do free walk on a long rein, have it reach down to the end of the rein and seek the contact, and that happens anytime I ask for it, meaning not just free walk on a long rein, but let's say I'm trotting and I push the reins forward, and the horse follows the contact forward and down. And I'm cantering, and I push the contact forward, and the horse slowly follows the contact forward and down, especially as I lighten my seat as well to help that happen. So if we can do that, then we go to the outdoor arena. And in the outdoor arena, we get to the point of, can we do the stretching and the reaching and everything else? And once we've repeated that process there, the next baby step for me is to grab some friends and get them up and ride with me. And, can I do all that with all these other things going on? Notice that, we're nowhere near a competition yet. Once I get to that situation, I disappear off to a local venue. There's a BD judge just down the road from us, Lindsay Jenkins. I think she's got a little advert in the back of the book, actually. And we go and borrow her arena, and we take the horse there, and we get to the point where I can make all that happen there. So that's the kind of next baby step. And then it's friends come with me to that venue, and we all ride around there, and can I do a good job there? And eventually we make our way to a competition that way. Some horses you will never have to do that with. Some horses you can go inside, go outside, go after your competition, and you can do a really good job still. But I take really baby steps with things, because I just don't want there to be an incident. Yeah, so Haley, that's sounds like a really tough situation. So Haley says, my mare often gets the wrong lead in canter on the left rein. It's now caused her to be very uptight and anticipate the canter in every corner, where she puts her head high and her pace goes very choppy. How can I relax her again? I think this is where kind of groundwork comes in and lunging comes in. So, if I was in that, if I had that kind of horse delivered to me to do some work on, I'd probably end up bringing it back onto the lunge and using, chambon or side reins just to get it to start working in an outline and relaxing and so on, and then popping it up into canter. I guess it's tricky if, the horse will strike off on the wrong lead even on the lunge, but it might certainly be a way to get the horse to relax. I'd also have her looked at as well, in case there's any reason physically why she really doesn't like cantering on the other rein. The other thing that I'd really work on is actually stretching in the trot. I have had horses to train that go quite hollow when you're going from trot to canter, and generally the way that I've and they've gone hollow because there's some kind of tension about making the transition from trot to canter, and I've always fixed that by getting the horse to reach deeper forward and down into the rein before I make the transition. And it sometimes comes as a bit of a surprise to them when I ask for the canter when they're busy stretching down. And I think it starts to take some of the tension out of the transition, out of the canter. And the same thing in the canter as well. You really want to be getting the horse to reach down into the rein in the canter. I always want my horses to follow my hand. I always want to be in a situation where if I slowly push my hands forward and lighten my seat, my horse is just automatically going to reach into the rein. And I trained this right from the beginning. It's interesting, actually. I don't think I've had enough experience of seeing how other trainers train their youngsters. So I don't know how to answer this question even to myself, but when I get a youngster to work on, to me it doesn't matter that it's a youngster. A lot of people say that you shouldn't work the horse, in quotes, on the bit or in an outline too early, but every horse I seem to sit on just wants to reach out towards the hand and stretch and lift its back up. So that's the way that I sort of work them, not in a tight outline, but the horse actually reaching towards the hands. So Haley, I generally don't have that problem because it's all sort of set up beforehand, and through that teaching the horse to reach into the rein. And I think that may be the only way you could probably solve that problem of that tension is, getting her to learn to reach and relax in all of those paces and stretch down towards the rein. I think that would be the only way to undo it. In terms of getting the wrong lead on the canter, I think I put a little bit of information in the book on that. I think a lot of people often get too much inside bend and push the horse onto the outside shoulder, and that's where they go off on the wrong lead. But anyway, I hope that's sort of partly helped answer the question, but it comes from relaxation from within the paces themselves. Can you choose at any point during your training to stretch the horse forward and out? Okay, so viewer 26 says, I've been out hacking today and noticed while trotting on flat tarmac, the horse is dragging his hind toes. Should I get a physio to look at it? He is normally active behind. He's a retrained racehorse. Well, should I get a physio to look at it? I would, if I had to advise, let's say we're in this situation, you're asking me and I've got to give some advice, I'd always obviously say yes, get a physio to look at it because, I'm covering all bases. If I was given a racehorse to retrain and noticed it was dragging its toes, its hind toes, I probably, unless I felt there was a good reason, I probably wouldn't get a physio to look at it until I'd done some trotting pole work with it, just to get it to start picking up its hind legs and starting to flex the hocks a little bit more. And, once I'd started putting in a little bit more impulsion into the horse and, really improving the rhythm of its trot work, for instance. So, I guess for me it would be, if my horse is going round and working through its back, and we've done trot poles and raised trot poles, and and I feel like we're getting some impulsion into the horse, and it's still dragging its toes, then I'd go, hey, there's probably something wrong here. So in the first instance, look at doing trot poles with the horse, doing quite a bit of trot pole work. So I'd put the trot poles out, get the horse to walk over them first, then start to get him to trot over them, and then you would make the exercise a little bit more advanced by raising up on a block one end of the trot pole and then alternate that. So, the first trot pole, the right side would be raised slightly, the next pole, the left side would be raised, and so on. And trot the center of that, and that would the pole raised very slightly off the ground, and then you raise both ends very small amount and start trotting over those. Do it all very gradually, but I found trot pole work to be the best way to teach the horse to pick the hind legs up instead of dragging them. It also has to do, with the way that you're training the trot work. Is can you hold the same tempo and ask for more energy, and that energy happen within the same tempo? So, that's impulsion. In other words, I'm saying, can you generate more impulsion within the pace, and that will help too. But yeah, I think after the point of doing all of that, and I still notice the horse dragging its hind toes, I would probably have somebody, look into it or something like that. That was a really good question. Yeah, do try the trot poles. The raised ones will really make him pick the hind legs up. It may be just that he's just got into that pattern of moving, and sometimes our skill level isn't enough, and the horse's pattern is too deeply ingrained for us to use our biomechanics to fix it. So, no matter how good you might be and how well you can hold the tempo and how much you use your leg, the horse may still just try and speed off and lose the plot because you're putting pressure on it. And he might not think to actually pick his hind legs up. He might be so ingrained in that pattern that it just doesn't occur to the horse to do that. So, the raised trotting poles give the horse kind of another door to go through, another thing to try to please you. I mean, riding well actually, training your horse well is often about making what you want to happen be the easiest thing for the horse to do. And it's kind of like, you close a certain number of doors, and the open door that you're asking the horse to trot through or to go through is the one that you want to happen. But even so, sometimes you close all the other doors, and the horse spends all of its time banging its head against the closed doors instead of going through the open door that you've made for it. And this is why we do things like come to groundwork or try other exercises or lunging or for instance trot poles. Those kind of things almost push the horse through the door and say, hey, pick your feet up, mate. You haven't got much choice. Okay, yeah, he's a little lazy at hacking and too nosy. So actually one of the things that I do teach people right from the beginning is that you really must have the horse's attention. And I think even out hacking, I don't allow a great deal of looking at stuff. We're going out for a hack, and it's not an excuse for the horse to go and do a bit of tourism, have a look at the scenery, check things. I still want the horse to pay attention to me. So even out on a hack, when I'm walking along, if the horse suddenly kind of goes head up, over to the left, what's over there, I'll correct it, straighten the horse up, and then relax the contact again. And sometimes I'll work the horse, and sometimes I'll just sort of allow it to stretch. But I wouldn't allow long lengths of time of the horse peering around and being a tourist. Because well, one of the silly phrases I use when I teach is, the more they look, the more they look. And actually, I think I said this at the beginning, is you're always training something, whether you mean to or not. So if you're out on your ride and you allow your horse to have a good nose at something, then you're training that behavior in your horse. So yeah, I mean, it's really difficult because there's a whole bunch of things that we're doing without even realizing it. One of the things that Mary says is, the horse cannot help but to respond in some way to the way that you ride. There's no avoiding it. If you sit heavy, the horse will hollow his back away from you. Or if you list off to one side or are collapsed one way or another, then the horse almost has no choice but to respond to the way that your body is. And the same with the training. Yeah, the more they find to spook at when looking. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the more they look, the more they look. And personally, I actually also say this to riders as well, is that they should be a bit prima donna-like about when a horse looks at things. It's kind of like, how dare you look at that? I'm the most interesting thing in this arena, thank you very much. And you should when they look, you use the inside leg, give it a little click. Obviously, if you do clicker training, don't click. Whatever it takes for that horse to bring its ears back to you and start listening and paying attention. I would, yeah, Actually, there's a really funny story. I got this young horse in to train, terribly stiff, terribly unfocused, and took it into the arena for a whole week. We were in the indoor arena, and I was working the horse and teaching it to stretch and making it pay attention. And I was really on its case. It really didn't come up for air for that entire week. It learned to pay attention. And after a particularly good session, I gave the horse a long rein and was walking down to the mirrors, at which point the horse lifted his head, saw himself for the first time in the mirrors, and galloped all the way back to the top end of the arena, with me sort of half hanging around its neck, almost falling off. And I was like, what on earth was that? And it just suddenly occurred to me, it was the very first time the horse probably ever came up for air and saw it, saw the mirrors and saw itself. Made me laugh. Anyway, thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for coming on the webinar. Do leave a review on Amazon if you can. That'd be amazing. Sunday will be the next one. It's going to be about the same time, although again we are still recording it. This is going to be with Mary Wanless. Actually, you know what I think would be really great? Go to the website and there's a support link on the top right. Click on support and email me, send me through the support portal a question you'd like to ask about riding for Mary for the webinar, because it might just help us understand what your kind of biggest questions are about your riding and how you solve certain riding issues. And hopefully she'll come up with some answers then. We will be co-hosting it, so I'll be able to answer your questions as well, and I'll give you some updates on the audio, which again I'll be hoping to work on that next week as well. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm really grateful that you came onto the webinar, and I hope you're all having a good time reading the book and learning a lot from it. But most of all, I hope the book helps you master dressage now and in the future. Thank you very much.